Cindy told me to do it. I hate these glasses. My chair. I way low. Really? No.
Maybe you're fine. My son texted me from Ankeny saying it's 1 inch or something like that.
Ooh.
Cindy, are we ready? Okay. It's a little bit after 7 o'clock, so we'll go ahead and get started. We'll call the Johnston City Council meeting number 26-14 to order. Cindy, roll call, please.
Councilmember Coe?
Here.
Evans?
Here.
Martin?
Here.
Ready?
Here.
Burkhart?
Here.
I want to welcome everyone that is in the audience this evening. If you are here for an item that is on the agenda, we would ask for you to wait for that item to come up to address the council at that time. If you are here for an item that is not on the agenda, there will be an opportunity under public communications to address the council. The next item on the agenda is the Pledge of Allegiance. I don't see any young people in the audience this evening. So Councilwoman Martin, do you want to lead us in the pledge?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. The next item on the agenda is the agenda approval. Mike, do we have any changes to the agenda?
Yes, we have a few, but first, a piece of business that you asked me to take care of. If we do have an emergency where there's bad weather, we do have a weather shelter that's outside the council. We'll head down the hallway as we turn right, go all the way to the end, and then there's a area that is a storm shelter down there. So if something happens, there is some bad weather come in, we'll make that announcement and move that direction.
It might get a little cozy in there, so we'll get to know each other really well.
Yes.
Hopefully that doesn't happen. Mike?
Yes, I have a number of amendments that need to be made. First is, so there was a issue with resolution numbering this time, so there was a number of resolutions that were misnumbered.
Okay.
So on the agenda, item 7C, it was resolution 26-170. The correct resolution number is 26-130. Item 7D, that resolution was 26-171. The correct one is 26-131. Item 5O, that resolution was 172. The correct resolution is 26-132.
I'm sorry, where's that?
That would be under consent agenda
50.
O. Yep.
Okay. That's 132?
Correct. So all the sevens are changing to threes, if you haven't noticed that. And then under item 5Q, resolution 26-173 is being renumbered to 26-133. And then item 7E, resolution 26-174 is being renumbered to 26-134. And I would note that all the attachments that are in Word docs have been updated. Just we can't change the agenda at this point, up to this point. Additionally, under the consent agenda, item I believe it is, let me double check. Yes, so this is consideration of resolution 26-129, accepting Merle Hay Water Trail access. We're removing that from the agenda for consideration. Staff will come back with some updates at the next meeting on that.
Council, any other changes to the agenda? Seeing none, do we have a motion to approve the agenda?
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second discussion. Cindy, vote please.
Councilmember Evans?
Yes.
Martin?
Yes.
Ready?
Yes.
Burkhart?
Yes.
Coe?
Yes.
Motion passed. Moving on to public communications. We have no scheduled public communications this evening. Do we have anyone in the audience that would like to address the council on an item that is not on the agenda? Anybody online? Seeing none, we'll move on to public hearings. We have two scheduled public hearings this evening. The first is to conduct a public hearing and consider approval of the first reading of ordinance number 1161, amending the Johnston Revised Ordinances of 2007 by amending the official zoning map to rezone 18.94 acres from AR Agricultural Reserve District and R1 100 Large Lot Residential District to R1 75 Medium Lot Residential District. And we'll open this public hearing at 7:08. David.
Good evening. I'm just going to open a couple of attachments so they're ready to go here. Good evening. You have before you tonight a request for rezoning for 10.03 acres from AR Agricultural Reserve to R175. And I'm going to reference the map here. On this map, on the bottom is Towner Drive. On the left-hand side is Highway 141. So that 10 acres is this northwestern parcel here, as well as 8.91 acres from R1 100 to R175, and those are the parcels noted with the arrows down here. Parcel just to the north of that is part of the subject property. They're all separate parcels, but that property is already zoned R175. So just kind of wanted to clarify, the rezoning request is this larger piece on this side, and then the smaller parcels down here. So in total, about 18, just under 19 acres being rezoned from either AR or R1 100 to R175, which is our medium lot residential district. By way of history on this property, the subject property was annexed into Johnston in 2019. At that time, the Agricultural Reserve District was put in place, as well as the floodway overlay and the floodway fringe districts, which are the overlay, the hatching that you see, the blue hatching that you see here. Nothing in tonight's action would change, make any changes to those overlay, the floodway overlay districts in that area. The southern 8.93 acres was subdivided in 2021. It was rezoned in 2021 to the R1 100. That's being requested to change now. Shortly thereafter, the Wooded Acres Plat 1 was approved. That included 6 lots for single-family homes in that area. In 2025, the northern portion was rezoned, and there was a second plat that just realigned lot lines. It did not result in any new lots. As it exists today, the property that's proposed for rezoning includes the 5 existing estate residential lots. One of those lots does contain a single-family home, and then in what's proposed to be developed, there is a 6th undeveloped lot that is already zoned the R175. That's the lot I mentioned, right where the cursor is at there. As they exist today, the lots don't have sanitary sewer service, and they have access to city water, but not fire protection internal to the site. And so they have requirements that they're required to have sprinkler system if they are to build in any of the existing lots. The comprehensive plan for this area identifies the area as medium density residential and parks and open space. The parks and open space really follows along the floodplain boundaries. The medium density residential designation does allow for single family detached, generally lots a quarter acre in size or less, single family bi-attached townhomes and multifamily. And so the requested zoning to R175 is in alignment with the comprehensive plan, and I would say is below the density of what would be permitted in a typical MDR as identified in the comprehensive plan. The comprehensive plan also envisions a north-south street extending from Northwest Towner Drive, which is shown by this big black line here, through the rezoning area across Little Beaver Creek, connecting to Northwest 110th in the area of Rowe Drive. So there would be, as it envisions in the larger scheme, if you zoom way out in the comp plan, this would be a connection that would extend from Highway 415 or Saylorville Drive down across Little Beaver Creek through this subject property, to the Beaver Creek Golf Course, and ultimately back down through a portion of Camp Dodge to get to 100th Street. That's a very long-term vision proposed that would allow for some alternative transportation through the various areas in this area that would not require access to Highway 141. So I believe the statement I made at P&Z still holds true. I will be retired before that road is built, but we do need to consider those kind of long-term impacts anytime we're looking at development patterns of a particular property. We wouldn't want to do anything on this property that would prohibit that future extension of the road, should the time come where it's needed. Obviously, with the time of rezoning, there's always a lot of questions about what's proposed to be developed. I noted the question really before the council tonight is the zoning in conformance with the comprehensive plan, and is the land use appropriate? Should the property be rezoned? The next step in that process is the preliminary plat process, where we look at all things related to what would be needed to get the property developed. Everything from lot sizes, setbacks, extension of infrastructure, the floodplain would be looked at, since that is an impact on the northwesterly side of this property. We look at traffic, landscaping, all the sort of things. That plat would come back before the P&Z and the council, and as always, we do neighbor notices for those, just like we do for rezonings. The applicant has submitted a preliminary plat for preliminary review. That's not before you tonight. Just for transparency purposes, that plat does show 24 lots. That would replace the current 6 lots. So there'd be a net of 19 new lots proposed from what's there today versus what they're proposing. I would note the street, as they've shown it, is in alignment with that comprehensive plan vision to have a connection through this property. Just to try to get ahead of questions that might come up, getting a little bit into development type stuff, I did want to cover a little bit of information about utilities and traffic. The city has been working on extension of utilities, water and sewer in particular, since before the property was annexed in 2019. We are just in the final stages of completing all of the phases necessary for this general area. Sewer is available along Towner Drive. Water is available along Towner Drive. That's all existing today. That was part of a multi-million-dollar investment to really open all of this area up for development, to make sure that development that happened at a rate or at a level that was consistent with suburban development, and the intent was to get away from estate type rural lots that didn't have access to those sewers or to those services, excuse me. As it relates to traffic, obviously the site has access directly to Northwest Towner Drive, which just to the east of Highway 141. The western leg of the Towner Drive, Highway 141 intersection, the western side was closed off by the Iowa DOT this past year. But there still exists a median today, and so this Towner Drive in the area of this proposed development does have full access to Highway 141. The city and our partners, the DOT, City of Grimes and Granger, back in 2019 throughout 2021, worked on an access management plan for this whole corridor, kind of from 415 down to Beaverbrook Drive and Grimes. At that time, the DOT made clear that their goal long-term is for this entire corridor to become a level 1 access, meaning full access management. And so what was recommended was an interchange here at a relocated location of Towner Drive. And that's what's shown here. This is the preferred alignment that came out of the study that we've been working on, that was recently completed and we're now in the preliminary engineering stages, design stages, following this preliminary alignment. The goal and the calendar, as we've got it laid out currently, the goal is to have the interchange open by the end of 2030. I did include in the staff report some information provided by the applicants related to traffic generation that they provided, as well as a crash summary over the study that we used, the study period we used in the design of the interchange that led to that access management plan. We looked at the 2050. They have no plans for any further changes short of the interchange, which we're working with them on. That said, they're always monitoring this intersection and all the intersections in this corridor, and they're going to make changes as they feel they're warranted. And so they did make that clear to me when I asked that question, that just because there's a median opening there today does not mean there'll be a median opening there next year if they feel there's a need to close it. So we did send out notices to all properties within 350 feet. There was a petition submitted that does meet our criteria outlined in our city code as far as requiring a 4/5 or 3/4 majority of the council. And additionally, we received comments from Camp Dodge that were included in your packet. The Planning and Zoning Commission did review this and made a motion to approve the rezoning. That motion failed by a vote of 4-1. And again, pursuant to that same chapter of the state code, since you don't have a recommendation of approval from the commission on a rezoning, it does require a supermajority of the council to approve the rezoning. And with that, I will be happy to answer any questions. I know the applicant has some information they want to share as well.
Council, any questions for Dave?
I have a question. So Dave, can you, one of the attachments was it was called the future land use map. Can you pull that up?
Yep.
So just want to make sure I understand this. So the future land use map shows pretty much all of this property in this kind of orange color, which is medium density residential. And as I thought I heard you say something about that, in essence, this proposed use is a lower intensity of of density than medium density. Is that correct?
That's correct. The MDR, the definition in the comprehensive plan, full definition, includes housing at densities that generally range from 6 to 10 units per acre. And so MDR is typically the designation of the comp plan that we would get to up to, like a 4-plex townhome or a 6-plex townhome. That would fall under the MDR definition in the comprehensive plan. It allows single family as well, as I noted, typically a smaller lot. But this is, generally in alignment with that, but not certainly at the densities that could be requested under this MDR category.
And obviously, so the, right, so and by requesting 1-1 or R1, that's a single family type of a.
It's a single family that,
right, okay.
Yep, use.
And this land use map was developed 5-10 years ago when we did a last update.
Last update, I don't recall specific changes that were made, but the last update we did that included this area was in 2020. We adapted our Thrive 2040.
So as part of that,
Yep.
our update to the comprehensive plan. So for several years, this type of use has been envisioned, and actually this
Correct. I didn't pull the history. I don't recall what the use, if we made any changes in the land use plan in this area or not, this particular property or not.
Sure.
It may have been that before that, but since at least 2020, it's been identified in our comp plan as that.
And then you also talked a little bit about water and sewer, and obviously the city we're either close or extending sewer and water into this area. Will these properties have access to that water and sewer?
They do. Sewer is available on Towner Drive. Water is available on Towner Drive. If they proceed with the preliminary plat as they propose, that water and sewer would be extended into the subdivision, and all lots would be served by both water and sewer. Sanitary sewer, the site's a little bit challenging, and so that would likely be a low pressure system, private low pressure system, similar to what we have on Beaver Drive, where there'd be a tank and a grinder for each house, but they would discharge into our sanitary sewer system and there would not be septic systems.
Okay, thank you.
Other questions for Dave?
We're going to pause for about a minute so we can let the electronics kind of kick back on and we can get our Zoom meeting going again.
We're not pulling down.
I'm back. Are you back? Yes. Oh, yes. It thinks it is, but. Yeah. Oh, it's green. I might have to do it without your. It's working because I can see it, but it's just not, the displays are not back up. Cool. Sort of, kind of.
Are we ready? Okay, well, it's gotten a lot brighter while we took our little break here, so. So Dave made the presentations to, council had an opportunity to ask questions. Would the applicant want to come up now to make a presentation?
Good evening, Council. I'm Ben Bungie, 11087 Northwest Towner Drive property owner and proposed developer for this rezoning application. So David did an excellent job of going through much of the content I had here, but I could maybe zoom in just a touch, or maybe I won't mess with it because it's technology. So So tonight, I just wanted to touch on really the rezoning application, really my intent behind submitting the plans, and ultimately, to talk through the connection with the city, infrastructure investment, and ultimately addressing the neighborhood concerns. Needless to say, in the P&Z meeting, there was emotional testimony that was out there. I take that to heart, and I've gone back the last 2.5 weeks and looked at the data and tried to, really identify solutions. I'm an engineer by trade, and so when I look at problems, there's always a solution to them. And so as I flip through really my rezoning request, I think you'll understand where I'm coming from as far as ways to address any concerns from the neighborhood and ultimately achieve the investment and the long-term vision that the city had put forth back in 2020. And so this rezoning proposal is a rezoning request for 22.37 acres. That rezoning is really about 6 lots, and those 6 lots, we are rezoning it all from our, I guess, a conglomerate or a fragment mix of different properties into a singular zoning of R175 with no animal keeping. And that's to draw attention to the single family goals as part of the proposed development. And so first thing I wanted to touch on was the regulatory consistencies that this proposal puts forth. As you can see, and David already highlighted this, but the entire Johnston annex property is in orange. That entire property, when we're done with this, would be the exact same zoning. I know spot zoning is of concern with the city, and so everything would fall into the R175 range. It almost matched the comprehensive plan to a T. Everything in blue in this map is unincorporated Polk County. So I just note that what we're talking about here is really what we have control of as the city of Johnston. So alignment, this comprehensive plan was adopted in November of 2020. It ultimately, approving this zoning would reconfirm the city's commitment to the roadmap and also the strategy. And it makes sure that property owners across Johnston, whether it's this one or any other one, knows that as the council approves things, investors can count on the zoning and that comprehensive plan as a long-term strategy as they invest. It eliminates any spot zoning. It would put 28 acres all within the city of Johnston, and it creates a cohesive character. There's no special requests being made here. It is literally to follow the comprehensive plan as it was laid out back in November of 2020. Secondly, I wanted to just touch on the recent infrastructure improvements. Based on my research, $26.3 million has been invested into the Northwest annexation area. And that is both on extending the sewer and water mains to the frontage of this property as well as north of this property. The city owes it to their taxpayers to place an ROI back on that investment. I think anybody who's got a vision and a long-term strategy knows that as developments come forth, they match the comprehensive plan. The goal here is with this rezoning that high-value tax-paying residents will be building single-family homes here, and ultimately it helps the city recoup its infrastructure investment that it made several years back. I think last fall there was also a connection fee that was tied to the city council agenda that was approved, and so as connection for both the sewer and water are made, that connection fee would be a reimbursable expense that would come forth towards the city as part of the proposed development. So David didn't show what the proposed development would be, but essentially you've got 5 lots along Towner Drive. They're all served off of water and sewer. And then I would extend a gravity system to about the midpoint of the property, to which a force main needs to be installed for the back half. The lots would be 25 lots along the entire 22 acres. So there's about a density of 1.3 lots per acre. Not an extremely high density. I think it reflects the commonalities amongst the neighborhood as well as the goals of the city. There would be a new 1,200 linear foot long city street, new sewer, water mains. There would be 2 engineered retention ponds that would meet the detention, as well as ultimately new sidewalks along Towner and both sides of the city street. So contextualizing the P&Z neighborhood concerns. So as mentioned by David, it was voted down on a 1-4 vote, but it was primarily, if you contextualize it, based on the traffic and the intersection of 141. I think in the neighborhood, the residents didn't object necessarily to the proposed design layout. They did request an area for walking. They were worried about the density increasing people. There aren't any sidewalks out there. And so as the proposed developer and doing my part, meeting the city obligations, there would be a sidewalk that would wrap the entire property to provide walking paths for those not looking to walk on the street. The intersection, ultimately, the regional commuter traffic that is going up the northwest corridor of the greater Des Moines Metro isn't a Johnston-only issue. This is a regional issue that comes to us as a result of a booming, greater Des Moines. And so as the Johnston City Council, my ask is to look at this zoning as what we can control. The city of Johnston has got an obligation to its taxpayers to really look at the comprehensive plan, the investment they've made into infrastructure, and the fact that the DOT has identified the challenge, the fact that the city wants that interchange, the fact the neighborhood wants that interchange, shouldn't put a moratorium on a development as it looks to go in. There are legal rights to both sides of it, but ultimately my goal isn't to go down that path. My goal is to work with everybody involved. I want to make this development a success, and I think this isn't overgrowing any infrastructure needs. Highway 141 is designed to take a ton of traffic. Towner Drive has got 14 houses on it right now, and it's got a commercial golf course. The bulk of the traffic, as you'll get into in the next slides, you'll see really is the commercial traffic. And so I didn't have the facts at the P&Z meeting, and I think it's important as you listen to testimonies from potentially opposition that'll come up next to understand those facts. The traffic study David mentioned notes, I went back and looked at the last 10 years. Snyder and Associates, who's been hired to do the preliminary interchange design, is also the engineer who is doing the design of my plotted development. And so in conjunction with them, I've identified the actual facts tied to the traffic study. There have been zero, I'll say that again, 0 deaths since 2015 at this intersection. While there have been deaths, and I take that very seriously, there have been improvements that have been made the last 10 years. I chose personally to live out there. I chose to put my family as they drive back and forth out there, all of my relatives. And, it is an intersection, and you do have to cross 141. In my opinion, the most severe portion of this is the crossing of the interchange to get to the southbound lane. There have been 9 minor accidents outside of those that were involved last year when 141 was under construction. As this graph represents, the construction was more challenging to the drivers of this intersection than the actual intersection when it's up and functioning as it would be traditionally, fully fully designed and complete. And so the last fatality was in 2015. There have been 5 broadside accidents between 2015 and 2019. Those broadside accidents occur when you cross the median. And so as you look at this, the turn lane that was added, the additional signage that was added over the course of the time that I've been out there, those are all improvements. The shutting down of the opposite median so you couldn't shoot across the entire interchange, those would be improvements that have been made. Those are engineering solutions to help take into account the challenges that are out there. So, a safety concern should be met with a proactive engineering solution, not zoning and development denial. And so I stand before you today to really focus on the fact that there are engineering solutions out there. Those engineering solutions can be implemented. And my ask would be that as we go through the proposal, that we can consider all options, because safety is as important to me as it is anybody who's about to speak. When we look at this intersection, a right-in, right-out proposal was one that was put on the table back in 2020 by the DOT. David mentioned this, but if there's a need base here because of the public clamor associated with the potential risk of accidents, then we should consider this as a group. This isn't one development that's causing this risk. And if the council feels necessary, I am supportive of a right-in, right-out approach. And so to help identify that, really what that does is it makes sure that everybody that pulls up to Towner Drive has to go right. And then this map here shows that you could take a right at Towner, head all the way up to really the interchange that makes up Saylorville Bridge connection. And so this is about a mile distance to which you can turn back and come around. And so as they put in the Ridgeview Estates development over here, they chose to shut down the westbound Towner Drive access across 141. We've got a proposed interchange in pink that David had mentioned. That proposed interchange is unfunded right now. And so tying interchange to an unfunded interchange to a development goes beyond what I believe council should be considering. While I'm all for any proposed solution, there is one here in front of us that we could sit down with the DOT and go access. Ultimately, there are parallel interchange and development timelines. This development, the houses associated with it, they won't happen day one. It doesn't happen that fast, right? I know that. I think everybody here understands that. At best, a development really builds out in 3 years. It could take even longer than that. Ultimately, a 2030 timeline with an interchange, if everything goes well, grant funding comes through, actually times out very well with the 25 lot subdevelopment. Ultimately connecting everything together, I think these parallel timelines work very well. So when we look at this, at a whole, if I put this on a prorated timeline, the existing realities are the neighborhood already traverses this every day. 86% of the traffic comes from the commercial golf course across the street. The city regularly permits that unrestricted commercial traffic. And so as a property owner, year 1, we would have 3, year 2, we would have 10, and year 3, we would have 13 morning peak hour travelers. 13 travelers in the morning. In the afternoon, my data here is wrong. It's actually 5, 13, and 18. And so for the record, there's 18 PM travelers. So we're talking about, at max, 18 peak hour travelers who have had zero incident, and there have been 0 incidents as far as death or serious injuries in the last 10 years. And so as we look at the intersection as a whole, we're talking about adding, 20 net homes. There are already 5 that could be built out there based on the current zoning and obligation. And that 20 isn't anywhere close to the traffic that's produced by the golf course. At the end of the day, my request here is that City Council consider an approval. There are 3 real bullet points that I've been hitting on. One is that it aligns exactly with the Thrive 2040 plan. This was an award-winning plan that the City Council was recognized for putting together back in 22. Municipal ROI. I am at your doorstep looking to invest in the city of Johnston. That investment that you made and the forethought you had will begin to reap its rewards as a result of this approval. And ultimately, as the neighbors are about to speak and the concerns are about to come forth, I want to make sure that we look at the factual data. Emotional testimonies versus the factual data. I am very sympathetic to everything that is being said, and will work to resolve everything as a collective whole. And so there's no one-size-fits-all solution. My ask again is that this gets approved, and ultimately we have the opportunity in the next step to work together. Thank you.
Councilor, does the council have any questions for the applicant?
Mayor, I do. I had the opportunity, and I appreciate you putting the engineer who's worked with it, I believe his name is Eric Cannon, in that regard, in front of me. Eric and I spoke via phone. Eric indicated, and we obviously have it as part of your presentation, a preliminary plat that has at least been plotted. Eric's indications were that plat has been submitted to the city for consideration pending this zoning. Is that correct?
It has been.
And Eric also indicated that Earth would be, if all of these steps were approved, Earth would begin moving before the end of the calendar year. Would you agree with that?
Yes, if everything gets approved, I think it's on pace to be fully approved by mid-October.
And Eric indicated that construction of actual residences would begin in the first half, if not the first quarter of 2027. Would you agree with that?
That would be the best case, and as a developer, I would be appreciative of that.
And so to some extent, the reason I ask all those questions, because I appreciated the candor and really the directness with which your engineer kind of outlined that timeline. That doesn't necessarily match directly with what you're saying as far as a 3-year build out. In other words, I think you're on a more rapid pace than that, unless you're going to limit to only 3 residences in 2027. Is there some sort of planned delays in selling those lots and actually building that out?
Well, I took the averages, so you don't know what's going to happen.
Okay.
I mean, so many variables come into developments. But on average, 25% of the lots sell the first year, 50% sell the second year, and 25% sell the third year. And so I took those averages, prorated them over 25 lots, and that's how I got to the data that was presented on this slide here. And so ultimately the 13 and 18 AM and PM is the max. But year one, so if year one is approved, that would be 27. There would be 3 peak hours and 5 PM peak hour travelers. Year 2 would be 2028, and that would be again 10 and 13. And then year 3, which would be 29, and that goes right into alignment with the interchange.
Eric, and I know you weren't privy to our conversation, but Eric kept referencing an increase of 150 trips. Do you have any idea why he would have referenced that number, 150 trip increase?
Yeah, so the golf course puts out 675 trips a day. You can look at those trips in both how many trips are going up and down the road versus the peak AM and PM trip hours or trips. And so that's when density is the highest on Highway 141. The risk of crashes are most severe because you've got the most intensity of traffic. And so as I looked at the data, I focused on where the most serious or potentially fatal accidents would occur, and use that in this presentation. The 150 hours is an accurate, or 150 trips is an accurate representation of the number of cars that would travel up and down. And so in total, this neighborhood would produce close to 1,000 trips amongst the golf course, its growth, this development, and the existing neighbors.
So the 13 and the 18 that you prescribe on page 14 are really only then predicated on the high traffic or high peak times?
Yeah, so
So that is not the full number of trips that you anticipate from your development?
no, 150 would be an accurate representation, which is about, if I'm doing my math right, it's 15% of the total volume that would be traveling up and down the road. And as you look at that in comparison to other entities there, it is extremely minor, albeit it's added traffic. It doesn't amount to near the volume that the golf course puts forward.
Okay. Thank you for answering those.
How many existing homes are there currently along Towner Drive?
There are I think there are 16 total. I think there are 14 that are to the east of the golf course, and then there are 2 to the west of the golf course, and then there is, I guess, 2 on the actual property
So
currently.
15 homes roughly.
Yeah,
So you have the golf course, which generates 675 trips a day, those 15 homes, and then this would be 25 homes. So I mean, I think it kind of goes to that today there are 850 trips being generated from Towner Drive heading west to 141.
correct.
And so this would increase that number, but it's not doubling the number. It's a small percentage increase,
Yes, that's
even
correct.
with the 150 number.
It's probably also worth noting as the city applies for grants and things, this may create a greater need and maybe put you over the top as far as another intersection that gets grant over another location. So
Are there other questions for the applicant? Thank you, Ben. We may ask you to come up again.
Okay.
Are there others in the audience that would like to address the council on this item? If there are, if you would approach the podium and give us your name and address.
Madam Mayor, members of council, Eric Cannon from Snyder Associates, 2727 Southwest Snyder Boulevard. I won't be repetitive on anything. I think Ben's done a great job outlining things. Obviously, Dave did a great job as well. I guess one thing I do want to point out here again, I know this is an emotional topic. I understand traffic and safety is on everybody's mind. But I think one thing to point out is we are talking about adding 19 lots. There's currently 6 platted here today. When those 6 lots went through for zoning, because they did, and platting, not a single neighbor showed up because they were rural estate lots. And I think that does matter here, that while safety and traffic is a concern, it is a concern now because we are looking at platting more traditional, smaller residential lots than what the neighborhood has out there. So I think that is contextual. It does matter that when there were 6 lots platted, there was no concern, but now that we're adding 19 more, there is a concern because of the size, I believe, of the lots. We have been working with staff for years on this. This is nothing new. You guys have seen this before. We have their full support. The DOT has made many improvements out here, and I think the traffic shows this is much, much safer than it was. And that has been a continual investment by not just the city, but also the DOT. And the reality is the market's going to drive the demand here. If people aren't comfortable living here, they're not comfortable building a house here, then we'll see only a handful of lots come on board in the next couple of years. So I think there is something about letting the free market guide this and not putting a moratorium, not restricting development here, but I'm following your comprehensive plan, all those things that have been outlined. So overall, again, when we work with staff, we follow their guidance, we follow the comprehensive plan, do everything that's asked above us, and come here, we're trying to do everything we can, be fully transparent, be communicative, and work with everyone involved. So I think Ben has done a great job with that, and we would appreciate your consideration and support on this, but happy to answer any questions.
Questions for Eric?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Thomas Vath. I live at 10930 Northwest Towner Drive. First of all, I'd like to say your planning and zoning people a couple weeks ago turned down this proposal right now because it's about 2 to 4 years ahead of a time to give us a safe access onto Highway 141. Last August, I was hit by a car going 90 to 100 miles an hour and wound up in the hospital. That intersection is a death threat. 4 people on our street have totaled cars there in the last 2 years. Until you can have a good access and a safe access, which those roundabouts you saw before, to kind of get on the highway, to add another 96 cars, that's 24 houses, 2 cars per house, going and coming each day. That's 96 more cars going in and out of that intersection. You're just creating you're creating a death threat. That intersection needs to be closed off like they did across the highway and give us a safe access. Then we can look at this again, because right now it's not safe. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Susan Kuhn. I live at 10990 Northwest Towner Drive. We are the first house east of the clubhouse. Traffic on 141 is horrendous. I drive downtown every day to work. As soon as I get at that stop sign, it's bumper to bumper all the way downtown. Those cars come around by Granger Corner, 90 miles an hour. My husband totaled his car there. He was hit twice. He about got killed. I was rear-ended at a stoplight right up the hill by Quickstar. You have to wait at our stop sign forever to get out there safely. How much does it take to save one life? 2, 3, or 4? There's been 7 or 8 people died there. Maybe before 2015, my cousin's friend lost her son at that corner. Does it take another person to die before they put a stoplight there? I was married to a cop, and he always said, if you have 10 accidents at an intersection, they usually will put a stoplight up. A life is worth everything. And they need to control the speed out there on 141. I also work at a law firm, and we represent a lot of people with auto accidents. It's just sad. God created life for all of us, and you would want all of your loved ones to be safe out there too if you lived on that intersection. I have grandkids that live in Carlisle, and I tell them, do not come to our house because it is too dangerous to drive, and I don't want them killed because they mean the world to me, as your kids and grandkids would to you too. So no, it is not a safe drive. I will not allow them to come to visit me. I go see them. A life, one life, is worth everything. We cannot let more people die at that intersection. Thank you for listening.
Hi there, good evening. My name is Roxanne Canny Roush. My husband and I reside at 10750 Northwest Towner Drive. We've lived there for the past 14 years. I wasn't actually planning to speak this evening, but as the facts were coming up on the monitors, I felt like that I couldn't believe all of them. And so I started to do a little bit of fact checking as the discussion was going on. In deference to Chris Jerimer's family, Chris passed away at that corner and I saw it 11 years ago. And young children and a young father and everything that everyone else has said about the traffic at that corner, I too pray every day when my daughter and son and her children leave to go back to their home in Johnston here. Secondly, I don't know if I'm uninformed, but the discussion that there's been about water and sewer, it's not on my side of the road. We just recently in April were connected to the water service. And to this day, I'm still communicating with the Johnston City Development people about finishing up the repair work that's necessary on our property. And I am not aware on anyone on the south side of the street that has sewer service. So perhaps I'm uninformed about something, but I am not aware of that as well. And lastly, I just really would ask you to come and sit out that corner for 8 hours someday and watch and see what's going on. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you.
Everyone, my name is Gina Keck, and I live at 11085 Northwest Towner Drive. My husband and I, we own the 6-acre property that is the one house that currently sits at the north end of this proposed development. I also, in kind of speaking for our neighborhood group that's had several meetings, some of us are here tonight, some of us aren't, but we did submit a bunch of written comments ahead of time, as well as a petition that I hope you were all able to see. So again, I want to thank the mayor, city council for your time and consideration. I also want to thank the Planning and Zoning Commission for the thoughtful review they gave this application and for their recommendation to deny the proposed rezoning after listening to our concerns. My husband and I purchased our 6+ acres from the applicant Ben in March of 2025. At that time, he presented an approved plat showing 4 large acreage lots on the remaining property, a plan that was entirely consistent with the existing character and zoning of the neighborhood. While we understand that plans can change, the new proposal for 24 homes is not an incremental change. It represents a dramatic departure from the development concept that was presented to us and influenced our decision to purchase our property just 16 months ago. As many of my neighbors have shared tonight, safety is our top concern. The intersection of Northwest Towner Drive and Highway 141 is not a hypothetical safety concern, it's a documented safety concern. You've heard people talk about the crash history. The city of Johnston has acknowledged through its own planning documents that improvements are necessary for the safety of this intersection. A plan to improve it has been introduced, but even if everything stays on schedule and proceeds exactly according to plan, that proposed interchange is not expected to be complete until 2030. We respectfully ask that those safety improvements come first and that the additional density can follow. The other conflict points along Highway 141, including the west side of Northwest Towner Drive and Northeast 18th Street, just to the south of our intersection, were eliminated in the interest of safety. Ours cannot be eliminated. It is the only way in and out of our neighborhood. We're unique in that we are just a small street that dead ends at Camp Dodge, who, by the way, Camp Dodge is also opposed to this development. There are 13 large lot homes and the golf course that currently sit on that dead end street. Because our intersection must remain open, the city has an even greater responsibility to ensure it can safely accommodate existing residents before approving rezoning that would add substantially more traffic. And it's not just new residents, it's the Amazon deliveries, the grocery deliveries, the school buses, the higher likelihood of emergency vehicles needing to access that neighborhood. And even though it may take a while for residents to move in, that construction traffic starts day one. I mean, the fatal crash that did happen back in 2015 involved a dump truck. I mean, we've all held our breath as those pickups pulling the long trailers with the equipment behind them try to get themselves on and off 141. I mean, you just sit there and hold your breath. It's a dangerous situation. None of us are here because we oppose growth. We understand that Johnston is growing and we recognize this property will likely develop. What we are asking is simply, is this the right development in the right place and at the right time? This proposal would increase the number of homes on our dead-end street from 13 to 37. That nearly triples the number of homes served by that exact same single point of access. It is not a minor change. It fundamentally changes the character of the neighborhood while relying on the very same intersection the city has already identified as needing improvement. When an intersection already has a documented crash history and infrastructure improvements remain years away, when drainage problems in the proposed development area remain unresolved, and when the proposal would significantly alter the character of this established neighborhood, we respectfully ask the council to give serious consideration given to the concerns raised by the residents who live here. Tonight's decision doesn't just affect the 13 families who live there today. It will affect future homeowners, children waiting for school buses, emergency responders, and anyone who will rely on this intersection in the years to come. We are not asking the city to stop growth. We are asking the city to ensure that growth is safe, compatible with the surrounding neighborhood, and responsibly timed. When the planned intersection improvements are complete, when there's additional north-south connections that exist as described in the Thrive 2040 plan, then it may be completely appropriate for this type of development, but we are simply not there yet. The Planning and Zoning Commission recognized that this proposal is premature. We respectfully ask you to reach that same conclusion and vote no on this rezoning application. Not because this property should never develop, but because responsible growth means matching the development with the infrastructure. Please vote no tonight and let the safety and infrastructure catch up before the density does. Thank you.
Are there others that would like to speak on this issue? Does the applicant want to make any further comments?
In Ben Bungie, 11087 Northwest Towner Drive. I think we have a resounding goal that we should go to the DOT and look at adjusting this intersection before anything else occurs. I mean, it's that simple. I would ask the neighborhood, would a right-in, right-out solution that was presented in my presentation be something you would consider? If safety is such a concern, does the broadside and the trailers always taking a right, heading back up and coming back seem like a solution that could also work with this development? There are really two things here at stake. We've got the investment and the comprehensive plan that is in full compliance, as well as the neighborhood concerns. The neighborhood concerns are something that goes beyond the city of Johnston. It takes the DOT, and connecting a property owner and the DOT and a state together isn't something that we can make a decision on here today. And so I would again ask the city council to look at this development, allow the planning to continue, and vote yes tonight. Ultimately, there are 2 more steps to this entire process, and I think we can continue to make headway as a group to get ourselves the right solution for the interchange that seems to be the most challenging part of anybody's concern. Thank you.
Thank you. Council, any, does anybody want to make any comments, make a resolution?
I have a question.
Okay,
If it was not rezoned and wanted to be developed, how many lots are we talking about?
should be. Pull it up closer to you, Jim.
You want me to repeat your question, Jim? So you,
If the zoning didn't go through, how many lots could you use?
as it currently stands, there are 6 lots that are out there, 2 which already have houses on them. And so that would be the maximum number you could have. There are 4 property owners as it currently stands as part of this rezoning. And so I think a question that may come to the city would be if it doesn't get approved, does the long-term vision of the comprehensive plan change because one of those property owners chooses to do something different? You know, right now, there are 4 more houses that can go out there.
I'm hearing kind of mixed messages from the developer. He's kind of asking us to support it, but he's also encouraging us to go to DOT and ask for a right-in, right-out, which is kind of a motion to table it. I support, and I would, if there's a vote tonight, I will support the rezoning because I think there's overwhelming evidence in support of it. The evidence that I find very supportive of it are: 1, it is consistent with the comprehensive plan, the land use plan that was developed in 2020 that shows that this should be medium density. And this is actually a lower density than what's proposed. If this is voted down tonight, there's a real risk that something of much higher density is built along this, and it's consistent with the comprehensive plan, and it's approved by a future council once this interchange goes into place. And you see a lot more units than the 24 units that are being proposed tonight. Something to be consistent with the land use plan of medium density. So there's a risk that what's being proposed tonight is much, and if it's voted down and goes away, if it's tabled and goes away, or if it's denied at this point, that some other developer comes forward and says, look, your comprehensive plan says medium density, I'm going to propose townhomes out here. The interchange is built. It's that road as proposed is a road that's going to have a fair amount of potential traffic along it because it's going to connect all the way north to south, that you're going to see a much higher density than what's proposed here, that would be consistent with the land use plan. 2, the numbers show that the traffic that already is generated off Towner Drive, 85% of it, or at least 80% of it, is being generated by its current use, the golf course and the existing homes there. Those uses are not going to change. So will adding these homes add to the number of trips coming out of Toner Drive? Yes. But is it a significant addition? Not from my perspective. And 3, I just don't see that the build out of these 25 lots or so is going to, I think the build out is paced appropriately so with the likely interchange that's going to be built. This is hard to do an apples to apples comparison, But another development here in Johnston of similar size, now it's, again, it's hard to do apples to apples, is the Carmel Hyperion development. 27 lots are in that. That development was approved in early 2023, so over 3.5 years ago. And I think there's 6 homes that have been built on those 27 lots in 3.5 years. Now, those lots are more expensive than probably Mr. Bungie is proposing. And that's why I say it's hard to do an apples to apples comparison. But I think but I don't expect, I mean, if Mr. Bungie's plans of 25%, 50%, 25% occur, that's pretty aggressive than what we see. We've approved rezonings in this community, and there's been no development built. I mean, all over town. I drive by and I'm like, gosh, didn't we approve a rezoning there? And there's no dirt that's been turned. It all depends on the developer and their financing and a lot of different things. So I really kind of think that the development that you're going to see along this is going to be closer to 2030, 2031, 2032. And I also believe that an interchange will be built by that point. Our 5-year plan for infrastructure development shows that interchange will be in place by 2030. And so that is our goal and our objective, and that's what we hope to accomplish. And we have a pretty good track record of being able to complete a project, and it's an important priority project to the city of Johnston. So from my perspective, I think this proposed use is something that is worth supporting, and I will support it. But it requires 4 members of the council to vote to approve it tonight, and I don't have any idea where anybody else stands on it. And so, but I do support it, and if there's I would make a motion to approve it. I don't know if there's a second, but I would, when at the appropriate time, if there's an interest in the council to move forward, I would support moving forward. But I've also heard, suggestions of going to the DOT or doing something else. So, I mean, that may be the preferred route of the council, and I think we always try to find what the general consensus is too, and work towards that too. So, I think that I don't know where everybody else stands, but to me, there's overwhelming evidence that says that this is an appropriate rezoning.
I want to interject a comment here before we go to other council members, and it kind of piggybacks on to something that you've said, Councilman Cope, and that's about the increase, traffic out of this area getting onto 141 at different times of the day. When I heard the comments that were being made tonight, it made me think about when I first moved to Green Meadows West a gazillion years ago, and 86th Street used to be a 2-lane road, and then they expanded it into a 4-lane road, and the traffic volume on 86th Street continued to increase. And when I would, leave in the morning to drive downtown to go to work, I would go up Windsor Parkway to get onto 86th Street, and it got to a point that every time you'd pull up to that intersection, and you'd look to see whether or not you could get onto 86th Street, you felt like you were taking your life in your hands to do it. I mean, you'd look both ways, and then you'd gun your car quick just to get out there before you got hit by an oncoming car. So eventually what happened was they put traffic lights, stoplights, at that intersection, which obviously has fixed the problem there. We can't do that on 141. We have, we've had conversations with the DOT about putting additional stoplights on 141, and they will not approve that. They wish they had never done that at the locations where they currently exist now, and that's why we are working with the DOT and doing it very, very aggressively to put an interchange in there, because we're not going to have a stoplight there. So when I heard your comments tonight, it made me again reflect back on those experiences that I went through, and it seemed to me, listening to your comments, that what we should do is call the DOT up and ask them to close off Towner Drive. I mean, if each and every one of you, every time you approach that 141, feel like you're putting your lives in your hands then maybe we should just, work with them to close it down. Now, I don't know what the alternative route is, but I don't see the 13 additional trips every day increasing or increasing your risk as you approach 141 to get on it, in the morning to go to work. I didn't feel like just because there were more houses being built in Green Meadows West and more cars trying to get on to 86th Street at Windsor Parkway, that wasn't increasing my risk at all. My risk was being caused by the volume of cars coming down 86th Street. Yours is being caused by the number of cars coming down 141. It's not because of more cars coming, from Towner Drive to get onto 141. So it seems to me the solution to the concerns that I heard from you tonight is to shut down Towner Drive so that cars can't get onto 141. Now, what Mr. Bungie, is it Bungie? Bungie was suggesting is, well, maybe there's an alternative route by going up 141 and then back again. Maybe that's the only immediate solution to it. But if that saves lives, I'd say then that's the conversation that we need to have with the DOT. So I may have more comments, but I just wanted to share that with you because I'm sitting here going, this development is not creating your problem. That problem exists. And maybe we need to address that problem separate and aside from this conversation tonight. Other council members?
I guess I'll go. Thank you, Mayor. I found the developer and owner's comments compelling. I agree with almost entirely of all your statements. I think what I saw of your development seems reasonable, and the fact that we in the city are looking forward to more development like that, and it's responsible to have that development there. There's a big but coming, just so you know. All of that, I really appreciated what you had to say. I value our planning and zoning board. They are very good at what they do. Some of them have been on the boards for years. They are volunteers, but they truly care about our community, and they also understand the challenges that our city has, that the majority of our taxes come from residential build, that we are running out of places in Johnston to build, that we are expanding to the northwest so that we don't become tied to one small footprint like some other cities, Windsor Heights, Clive, etc. Anyway, in all of this, we don't, on the council, have very many chances to affect what gets built. A lot of the time, if it fits into the zoning and it's another car wash, we all have to accept it, even though we think we don't need another car wash. My point of view on all of these developments has always been not only listening to what the planning and zoning board says, but listening to people that come to us with their concerns. A lot of the times we make zoning changes and nobody shows up. But when neighbors come and they have heartfelt concerns, and I have the same concerns, I listen closely. And it's the one time that we can sort of direct development. Although in this case, I think your development is fine. I think it is too soon. I think it needs to wait until we get some, hopefully get this interchange put together. I'm very disappointed that we didn't receive the funding that we wanted to get federally for that interchange. Any help that the community could give us in terms of writing letters, and I don't know exactly who that could be, that would help us out because it's desperately needed, this new interchange. But it's in a very expensive at this time.
I want to say thank you to the developer for moving forward. I want to say thank you to the residents and the neighbors for coming forward for all of the same reasons that Councilmember Martin shared. I'm really impressed and grateful that even as part of your development proposal, you wanted to follow to a T, including a road extending further north through that planned development or that proposed development. And I like everything about your proposed development. I'm not worried about the width or density of lots. I'm worried about the trips that they're going to cause sooner rather than later. I play in my brain some of these other alternatives, including the ride in, ride out that you are advocating for. And then I begin to think about, what does that mean though for southbound 141? Does that, if approved and block off that median, do we block it off entirely or propose to it blocked off entirely, preventing southbound traffic from accessing Towner Drive, accessing the commercial entity that's there? Do we somehow create a way that they can continue to turn to that Towner Drive from the southbound? And if it's blocked entirely, I then find myself following Google Maps down, and the nearest place that they can go is a crossover at Timber Ridge, which is not at all set up or safe for that, as a northbound traffic comes over the bridge or comes over the hill. And then if we continue south, we have to go all the way down to Beaverbrook, where that stoplight is that is not safe as deemed by Iowa DOT and as they regret saying it. So I think that it's easy to say, yep, you can go up and around on 415. I think, by the way, we also have added more traffic onto that from that standpoint because of 121st or something that now is in that creation or that general vicinage. So what we really need, though, is to be able to get some more data. I asked for more data and more recent data on 141 traffic and the increase that's happened there. You did a very good job of predicting the amount of traffic, especially at peak times, that's going to be on Towner. I would also disagree to some extent that when you have 2 or 3 or 13 other cars behind you, that you don't feel pressure to go or to take risks that you don't already or wouldn't already take. I feel that. I also have 2 teenage drivers at home who seem to feel any pressure even when there's a car trailing 150 yards behind them. So to some extent, I think we're all at different points in our driving experience and what that reflects. My questions, I was intrigued by David's presentation and comments that at some point in time, maybe past his retirement, that there may still be a road that interconnects through Camp Dodge. Have we had any conversations anytime recently with regard to that to expedite that process or what that may look like? So I will tee that question up. But I also need to turn to our legal counsel here to some extent because the applicant did dangle that there are some potential for legal challenges. And I need to know to some extent how we can continue to protect the city from those legal challenges. And so I understand the 4 out of 5 that need to be voting in favor of that today, but also I need to understand to some extent legally, is the city in some sort of limbo here with regard to our decision or our conversations that we're already having? So Christine, you're starting to activate your microphone, so I'd welcome any input and counsel you would be able to provide. And then if David has anything to comment on about future growth from that standpoint.
So anytime a rezoning application comes to the city council, you're required to follow chapter 414 of the Iowa Code, as well as the city code, as well as your comprehensive plan. You consider all of those things together. You consider the land use map. You also consider the text of your comprehensive plan. property owners in Iowa take their property subject to zoning regulations. So there is an understanding that zoning can change, does change. The council has the ability to change it. Anytime you make zoning decisions, you're required to consider the health and welfare of the community. You're required to consider the particular aspects of the property being rezoned, the provision of transportation, utilities, density, environmental concerns. All of those factors are things to take into account. There is no magic bullet that says XYZ must be found, to approve or deny a rezoning. It's a balancing act. Courts generally defer to decisions made by the city council unless they are found to be arbitrary and capricious. So if there has been evidence presented that persuades you that for whatever reason, this particular zoning is not appropriate for this particular property, as long as you're identifying what those issues are that are persuading you, courts will generally defer to your decisions.
I linger on your comment about health and welfare as being one of the things of which we can consider as we make our decisions. If hypothetically someone were to become seriously injured at this intersection or die, is the city liable because we have had conversations of health and welfare, but we didn't do everything within our power to try to mitigate that?
I would say it would be very difficult for an individual to tie a traffic accident to a rezoning decision. Connecting those two things would be a stretch.
Okay.
There's many factors that go into what causes a traffic accident.
Thank you.
I think Halloween is very good at what you're trying to do. But also, it comes to the time point that I think dead end at one end, and then at down the other side. Every time. 2021. We got that. And maybe one year. It's a, well, what is small game, what is small pride that achieve a and then your proposal of writing and write out, that sounds good, but you can write that out, but while getting, all the way down, and it's still stop. It's kind of a good proposal, but not very good. I really like this, but I think I need to wait for the note. So at this point in time, I'm not be the right number. So that's like, it's a good proposal, but not this, not this.
So that, Christine, can you remind us, take up a vote, or if we want to table it, what's, if we vote and it goes down, what happens then? Somebody wants to table it, what can you transform that?
And the mayor asked me the same question, and I'm trying to find it. David might have to help me. If a rezoning request fails, is there a time period by which the applicant cannot bring it back?
1 year.
Okay, 1 year. I couldn't remember if it was 1 or 2. So if it fails, there's a 1-year period by which the applicant cannot bring that same request back. If it's tabled, that gives you more time before you take a vote.
And possible to get answers out of the DOT? I don't know. I'm just asking. Does anybody know?
But I think Councilman Burkhart's point about the problem with making the right in, right out is the first person who's going to show up opposing that is the golf course. Because everybody coming, your point about that was excellent, is that, you know, if you're coming from Granger and you're going to want to turn and you're trying to get to Beaver Creek Golf Course and now you can't cross there, they're going to strongly, and I presume, and you know, Dave indicated that this discussion's occurred a little bit with the DOT about closing it, and the DOT has not supported that. I presume that might be part of that thought process. I don't know. You might be able to add more to it, but I think that's a fundamental challenge of getting the DOT to agree to making it a right in, right out.
Yeah, the conversation I had with the DOT, you know, anytime there's a question to the DOT about a development, they assume you want all the access, every access, you know, and so his comment to me was that we won't guarantee that the median break will be maintained.
What's that?
The DOT indicated they would not guarantee that the median opening would be maintained along Towner Drive. So if they felt the need to close it, they'll close it. They have no plans to do that at this moment, but if they determine it's necessary, they will do it as an interim step before the interchange is open, or other changes they might deem necessary. I mean, they're looking at this whole corridor, you know, all the time, and so every accident gets flagged at the district office out here because they've been monitoring this corridor for a very, very long time. So this is high on their list. Anything that's happening out there, they're keeping an eye on. I can't tell you what changes they may or may not be willing to look at. I will tell you they're monitoring it very closely, and they'll answer the call if I call them. We meet with them regularly on the interchange. So,
but most likely the answer is
getting a commitment to say this is the improvement we're going to make in 3 months, but that's not going to happen in a short time period.
It'll be kind of more of a non-answer.
Yeah, it'll take time to work through any changes.
It seems to me that having a conversation with the DOT about this is worthwhile. I mean, again, what I'm hearing is just, you know, from all of the conversation that has occurred here, it's not the development that is causing the problem. It's the access to 141 from you know, cars in that area trying to get onto 141, regardless of which direction they're going. So, you know, to turn down this request and prevent the developer from coming back for a year because we're wrestling with this issue over here, I think is unfair to the developer. I think it seems to me that what we should do tonight is table it and have a conversation with the DOT and see if we can't figure out if there is a different way to address the real problem here. And that problem is the access to 141. Something short of getting the interchange in, which isn't that far off, but it's still 3 years away, 4 years.
I would support tabling. But I've talked a lot about this, so I would kind of defer to others as well. I mean, I can support that. And I guess with that, I'll make a motion to table this item.
And I could support that too.
Ordinance 1161.
And that would only take three aye votes, right? So we have a motion and a second.
I have a second.
Further discussion?
No, we are tabling this, right?
Well, if there's 3 votes, yes.
Yes, okay.
Any further discussion? Cindy, vote please.
Councilmember Martin,
Yes.
Ready,
Yes.
Burkhart,
Yes.
Coe,
Yes.
Evans.
Yes.
Motion passed. Thank you all for coming. Really appreciate it. And we've got a problem here. We got to figure out how to do it, to address it, because none of us want to see any more lives lost out there. I'm sorry?
I'll close the
Oh.
public hearing.
Yeah, we tabled it, so we don't close it. Okay. Back to the next item. We have an additional public hearing this evening. And that is to consider approval of the first reading of ordinance number 162. Try and stay dry out there. More importantly, stay away from the lightning. First reading of ordinance number 162, or 1162, amending the Johnston revised ordinances of 2007 by amending the official zoning map to rezone 12 acres from C3 Regional Commercial Development to C3 Regional Commercial District. Rezoning from C3 Regional Commercial District to C3 Regional Commercial District with restrictions. Boy, that was harder than it should have been. Open this public hearing at 8:47.
So the applicant, Johnston Golf Development LLC, submitted a petition to rezone 12 acres of property located at 5055 Merle Hay Road from C3, the Regional Commercial District, to the C3 Regional Commercial District with restrictions. This request is the result of a development agreement that was approved between the owner and the city in April of 2026. The purpose of the rezoning is to add the following to the list of restricted uses, and those uses are municipal, county, state, or federal administrative or service buildings, hospitals, maker spaces, commercial, ambulance, or medical carrier services, electrical substations, central services, and wireless facility macro. The Thrive 2040 comprehensive plan identifies the subject property as commercial, community mixed use, and parks and open spaces. As proposed, the proposed rezoning is consistent with the comprehensive plan. As stated, the property is currently zoned the C3 Regional Commercial District with conditions. It meets all the bulk regulation requirements of the C3 district. To the north, the property is zoned C3 and M2. To the east, the property is zoned C3 in our conservation district. To the south is outside of Johnston city limits. And then to the west, the property is zoned C3 as well. The portion of the property is within the 100 and 200-year FEMA-defined floodplain. Staff mailed notice to everyone within 250 feet plus right-of-way. We have not received any comments or emails from neighboring property owners. I may answer any questions you have. We also have a representative from the applicant here as well.
Council, have any questions for Jacob?
I do, Mayor. Jacob, what's a makerspace?
A makerspace, as defined by our code, is those places similar to a carpenter coming in. You see them a lot in our E2 and our E1 districts that are the kind of the places where if you had a woodworking shop, you could go and kind of make small items, smaller items for yourself. So you're not looking at your big industrial uses or your big woodworking shops, more of those smaller mom and pops type stores.
Would it prohibit one of those places where you go and you paint and at the same time you're drinking wine?
It wouldn't, that would be more of like, we would consider that more of a commercial space. The maker space is truly more of a space where
more industrial, more
sell and stuff,
okay.
like a small woodworking shop.
And would a clinic, I see where we don't want a hospital, but would a clinic also fall under prohibited space?
I believe so. Under our hospitals, I believe it would fall under that.
Okay.
So it would prohibit a clinic?
I believe so. I'd have to double check. I'd have to verify.
Quite a few clinics going up all over the place.
I'm sort of surprised that our hospital definition and a clinic isn't considered two different things.
I'd have to verify and double check. I do not know off the top of my head if we have there's a separate definition of hospital and clinic in our code off the top of my head.
And for instance, hospitals are going to have emergency vehicles with lights going at clinics.
They'd have overnight stays.
Right. So to me, those would be, I
Right.
would expect that there'd be a distinction.
Right. We have I can't remember off the top of my head exactly how we define it, but I know we define like dental offices and smaller offices like that, like a clinic, I believe is defined differently, so.
And this is a rezoning,
Yes,
so it requires 3 readings.
That is correct.
And the anticipation that we would do multiple readings.
that is correct.
So this is a
I can get
question
you-
that could be cleared.
I can get you an answer
cleared up before
specifically.
the second.
Other questions for Jacob?
Just to clarify, I just pulled it up, but the hospital requires inpatient medical or surgical care.
I missed
Clint,
that.
I can't hear you.
Sorry, the definition of a hospital requires inpatient medical or surgical care. I don't think it would qualify. It allows other offices, but I don't think it would, a normal clinic wouldn't fall under the definition of a hospital.
Right, because you don't have inpatient.
Right.
Jacob, quick question for you. What is the purpose of this prohibited use? Why did this come about now? Why did this thing come about now, the prohibited uses of this different thing? I mean, the whole process, we've been trying to develop this part of the property for a long time now. And it's like 4 or 5 years. Now, this particular rezoning of this prohibited use, why did this come about now?
I would direct that question to either Mike or David. From my understanding, it was part of the approval process for the development agreement, for the amendment to the development agreement.
It was something that the city requested.
Yes.
Oh, this
So
was
this
city
is,
request.
yeah.
Okay, that's what I needed to know. Okay, all righty. I thought the developer.
This
asked
list
for it.
isn't coming from the developer, it's coming from the city
Okay,
and our
thank you.
legal team and stuff.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
Other questions for Jacob? This is a public hearing. Is there anybody in the audience that would like to address the council? Do we take action while we're in a public hearing? No, we close it, yeah. If not, we will close the public hearing at 8:53. Do we have a motion to approve first consideration of ordinance number 1162?
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second discussion. Cindy, vote please.
Councilmember Reddy,
Yes.
Burkhart,
Yes.
Cope,
Yes.
Evans,
Yes.
Martin.
Yes.
Motion passed. Moving on to the consent agenda. We removed item I and made a couple of corrective changes to O and Q. With that, do we have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second discussion. Cindy, vote please.
Councilmember Burkhart,
Yes.
Cope,
Yes.
Evans,
Yes.
Martin,
Yes.
Reddy.
Yes.
Motion passed. Item 7A of the non-consent agenda. Second consideration of ordinance number 1159, amending the Johnston revised ordinances of 2007 by repealing and replacing Chapter 55 pertaining to animal protection control. Do we have a motion? Second consideration. Here comes the chief. Wants to make some comments?
Good evening. I apologize. I will speak quickly.
I guess I'm just getting anxious.
Right. So we are, this is the second reading. We are 95, 98% through this thing. We've got one discussion item that I need guidance on prior to taking this to third reading, and that's the specificity of, within the code revisions, we've created room for the city to create a future trap neuter release program, TNR program for cats. There's been discussion back and forth as to whether there's value with that or not. The way the code's currently constructed, all we're doing is creating space for that potentially in the future. However, there's been some consideration that perhaps the policymakers of the city do not want to engage in that within the grand scope of the code. So essentially, I've worked with our legal counsel. I've gone through the document and highlighted things. If it is a policy decision of the council to not include the framework for a future TNR program, we can remove all of that based upon the comments that are within the code here to strike that. But I just need that piece of guidance from the council. If we want to continue with the idea of the TNR program, then second reading as it's currently represented, we would move forward with that onto the third reading.
I have a few questions, Mayor. So the trap, neuter, release program, the way it is currently handled, well, I'll back up for a second. The reason we went to the trap, neuter, release program was if we didn't, as I recall, if we didn't have a TNR program, the ARL would not take our kittens, our feral kittens. So that was kind of like a reason why we weren't just going to leave the little kittens out there to become grown-up cats and then just produce more cats like, you know, a colony. And so that we were going to do the trap, neuter, release. Is that correct? That's the history?
Good memory. So yes, this has been a dialogue for many years. We tried to move forward with it. We've never actually instituted the TNR program in the city. No.
Okay.
The ARL came to us insisting that we do that. We've been in that process to work through this. But at this point, they will take kittens from us, but they will not take the adult cat. I think their cutoff is around a 6-month age of the cats. So currently, a lot of times what we'll do, we have to wrangle the nest of kittens essentially, and I think it's $125.
And you can't get the adult cat because they're too smart.
Exactly. So that's where we're at right now. So with the framework of adding this in, we don't have any language in our city code currently for animal control related to regulating cats other than the traditional at-large stuff, the licensing, those kinds of things. So either way, we are adding an entire subsection to Chapter 55 that relates to cats. Ultimately, what the decision point I need from the council is, are we going to consider cats in the broader sense of a nuisance or in the broader sense of a TNR program? Do you want community cats at some point in the future within the city of Johnston, the ear-notched and those kinds of things? So this is really, this is a framework, and that's all this is. If we move forward with the code as it's written currently, if we decide at some point there's an outside third party that's going to come in, establish a program of volunteers, they will still have to work with the police department. We will have to go through an administrative rule process to oversee the program. None of that's been established. There's no point in establishing that until we have an outside body that wants to come in, because I'm sure there will be future legal challenges and other things related that would shape some of those decisions administratively for us.
Okay, so TNR is written into this ordinance, but we haven't actually been doing it. One of the concerns that I had about the TNR, besides the fact that it returns wild cats that are a harm to our native birds, was that we were paying for the neutering in the TNR program. The city would be paying to neuter these cats and then return them to our community.
I've listened to those concerns. No, I've listened to those concerns, and that's why all we're doing is creating framework in here that the outside body that would try to come in and establish this, it's going to be theirs to fundraise, theirs to volunteer staff. We don't have the capability or the capacity within the police department to manage a program. We just don't have the resources, and so we can't do it.
Right.
So what we need is someone from the outside that's compassionate towards us, that wants to take this on. But that includes the funding aspect. We still have the actual cost. Every time we take a dog or a cat to the ARL or whatever it may be, we're already paying those fees in our traditional program for animal control.
So the trap, neuter, release is, what advantages is it to us that keep it in this ordinance, because we're not really doing it?
Right. It comes down to what is your viewpoint and what do you believe about the colonization of cats? And we can have the exact same conversation about coyotes too, as far as the dominant
Or chickens.
Male or, right, exactly. So.
Hard to leash a chicken or a kite.
I know, but that's what I brought up about my cat, but go ahead.
Right, so this is really about, as policymakers for the city, do you want to establish a framework for the future for an outside body to come in and try to assist? But in that, if you're saying yes to that, then what you're saying is that you agree to the idea that colonization of cats is a future issue we're going to deal with, and you're going to have the ear-notched cats that aren't owned by anybody, and some of the concerns that you've had with ownership when it comes to the cats.
Yeah, because my cat becomes a second citizen in terms of the notched ear cat is given free rein, and an owned cat is responsible to their staying on their property.
Right.
So I'm trying to get a sense of if we're here today and this would be full TNR adoption. As I read this ordinance, we're kind of going here, sort of a first initial step. We're not going all the way over here.
Right.
Is that a fair?
Absolutely. Yes. The whole point is, I mean, this has been a very intensive rewrite. It's taken a long time. There's a lot of work. So all we're doing is creating an off-road one way or another. In the short term, it doesn't change anything about what we do with our response to cats in the community. We're going to try to catch them. We're going to try to rehome them. We're going to try to take them to a shelter if they'll take them. Or now with this, if they are deemed a nuisance, and we created nuisance language and a definition for that, if they're destroying property, if they're doing damage, then we have the opportunity for humane euthanization as well.
So if a ARL or some of these other organizations that sort of says, have you recognized that TNR is sort of a potential method? If we adopt this ordinance, the answer to that would be yes, because we would be adding references to TNR to our code, as well as sort of a process. But we're not going fully as far as, hey, the police department's going to operate a TNR program, and we're going to make this a priority, because I think you make an appropriate point that there's other priorities out there that we probably should be focusing on. And so this doesn't go that full way of making it a major priority for the Johnston Police Department, and we're investing significant resources into it. This is more of a step that sort of says, we put into our code some mechanisms, definitions, and those types of things, that if that's important for some outside organization, then this meets that threshold.
Use your volunteer corps, use your volunteer funds, and we're happy to work with you on the administrative process, but we can't manage this within the competing priorities of the police department.
Yeah, and at some point, we could set aside a little money. If there was a volunteer group that was vetted and they needed funding for neutering cats, we could come up with a yearly fund for stuff like that, or a way for people to donate to that fund, all those things. So, I'm sorry.
No, go for it.
I was just going to say that I think it's reasonable, this next step that the chief has provided us. And while I may personally have some things I'll have to work through with my husband, I think that's fair.
Welcome.
We all do.
Yeah.
He doesn't get a notch. Right? I just want to make sure.
No, but I'm telling you.
What are you?
I don't know if he's notching one ear my cat or two, but we're not going to have a $600 fine, I think, but I don't know.
I didn't see a lot of change. I didn't see the $600 highlighted in the.
Well,
new
that's
code
another
language, so.
email. Anyway.
Any other questions for the chief? Do we have a motion to approve second consideration of ordinance number 1159?
Move approval.
Second.
We have a motion and a second discussion. Cindy, vote please.
Councilmember Cope?
Yes.
Evans?
Yes.
Martin?
Yes.
Ready?
Yes.
Burkhart?
Yes.
Motion passed. Item 7B, second consideration of ordinance number 1160, amending the Johnston Revised Ordinances of 2007, Chapter 41, Sections 41.09 and 41.14, pertaining to authorized use of weapons and trapping for coyote, control within the city of Johnston. Chief.
The only feedback that we've gotten, the media did quite a few stories on this after the first reading. I would say general consensus of comments was either neutral or positive in support of it. The Iowa DNR did reach out to us and express their gratitude for us, as well as Humane World for Animals. They're a national organization that is working on controlling coyote population in urban areas. So they were very appreciative of it and wanted to offer their support for it. So I have nothing else.
Any questions for the chief? If not, do we have a motion to approve second consideration of ordinance number 1160?
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second discussion. Cindy, vote please.
Councilmember Evans?
Yes.
Martin?
Yes.
Ready?
Yes.
Burkhart?
Yes.
Coe?
Yes.
Motion passed. Item 7C, consider approval of resolution number 26-130, approving the site plan for 5420 West Parkway. Jacob.
Downing Construction has submitted the following site plan for a property legally known as Lot 2 West Park Office Plaza Plat 3. The proposed development includes a 7,200 square foot office building. The property was originally zoned IC Industrial Commerce Park, which is now our E2, in September of 2003. The final plat for West Park Office Plaza Plat 3 was approved in 2007, and then the property was later rezoned from the PUD known as West Park to the E1 Office Employment District of March of 2024. As stated, the property is zoned E1 Office Employment District and meets all the following bulk regulations: a front yard setback of 30 feet, a side yard setback of 10 feet, a rear yard setback of 35 feet, minimum lot area of 20,000 square feet, and a minimum lot width of 100 feet. The development area does not include any existing trees that exceed 6-inch caliper diameter that require preservation. Section 181.03 of the Johnston Code states that when the entire lot is not being developed, the open space requirement shall be based upon maintaining the specified percentage of open space within the boundaries of the improved portion of the lot. The total property area for this project is 45,244 square feet, with a requirement to dedicate 25%, or 11,311 square feet. The proposed site plan exceeds that requirement by providing 43%, or 19,541 square feet. There are 23 trees required and 12 shrubs required. They're proposing 23 trees and 12 shrubs. No buffers are required for the site plan. The site is accessed via West Parkway. The total required parking is 27 spaces, which includes 2 ADA. The proposal provides 42 spaces. Those are calculated at one parking spot per 275 square feet of office space. It will have electric vehicle charging be ready, as well as bicycle parking. The site is serviced by city water and sanitary sewers from West Parkway, and the building has been reviewed and meets all fire protection requirements. The runoff will be collected by the existing storm sewer, which will then drain to the existing regional detention basins to the south and east. The subject property is not within any FEMA designated floodway or floodplain. As part of the E1 Office Employment District, the architectural requirements are at least 50% Class A, no more than 50% Class B, and no more than 15% Class C. The project complies with all architectural materials. We have not received any comments or emails from any of the adjacent property owners. I can answer any questions you have.
Questions for Jacob? If not, do we have a motion to approve resolution number 26-170
So moved.
Second.
or 130?
Second.
We have a motion and a second discussion. Cindy, vote please.
Councilmember Martin?
Yes.
Ready?
Yes.
Burkhart?
Yes.
Coe?
Yes.
Evans?
Yes.
Motion passed. Item 7D, consider approval of resolution number 26-131, approving the preliminary plat for Andarsko Acres.
The applicant for this preliminary plat, Richard Andrusko, is looking to divide his property located at 9340 Northwest 67th Avenue for the creation of a new single-family lot. The property is part of the Rawls Acres subdivision, with the preliminary and final plats being approved in January of 1992. The Thrive 2040 comprehensive plan identifies the future land use for the subject property as suburban residential. As such, the proposed development is consistent with that the Thrive 2040 comprehensive plan. The property is zoned R1 100, the large lot residential zoning district, with the bulk regulations of a front yard setback of 40 feet, a side yard setback of 10 feet, a rear yard setback of 40 feet, a minimum lot area of 20,000 square feet, and a minimum lot area of 100. The proposed lot does meet all the bulk regulations. The development area includes 3 existing trees exceeding 6-inch caliper diameter that are proposed to be removed for utility construction. They are located on the front. As shown on these red X's. No new roads are to be created. There is an existing trail that connects Northwest 67th Avenue to Northwest 93rd Street. Access to the proposed Lot 2 would be provided via a driveway, as shown kind of this very light gray. Before the trail entrance, the existing bollards that are there will remain in place to separate trail traffic from vehicle traffic. Sidewalks are required on both sides of all public streets. Staff recommends that the construction of the pedestrian sidewalk on Northwest 67th Street be deferred until directed by the city, consistent with Charlie Ray's to the north. The entire development will be serviced by public sanitary sewer and water, with connections to both Northwest 67th and Northwest 93rd Street. The area has been reviewed and meets all fire protection requirements. The site generally drains both north and south towards the existing stream located in the middle of the property. The subject property is not within any FEMA designated floodway or floodplain. Staff did send notice out to everybody within 250 feet plus right away. We have not received any comments. I can answer any questions you may have.
Any questions for Jacob? If not, do we have a motion to approve resolution number 26-131?
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Discussion? Cindy, vote please.
Councilmember Reddy,
Yes.
Burkhart,
Yes.
Pope,
Yes.
Evans,
Yes.
Martin.
Yes. Motion passed. Item 7E, consider resolution number 26-134, establishing the public hunting areas for the 2026-2027 Urban Bow Hunt Program. Jeff.
This is our 28th year of doing the urban bow hunt. Why do you turn it off? This is our 28th year of doing the urban bow hunt, and it'll take place October 1st through January 24th. What council will do by this resolution is approve the hunting area in city-owned land in Johnston, which is the Beaver Creek Natural Resource Area, areas C and D on the map. And we do only allow a limit of 8 hunters to hunt in that area. I think last year we had 6. So this would allow us to control those hunters and permit them to be able to hunt in the Beaver Creek Natural Resource Area.
Any questions for Jeff? Jeff, I think they got my deer that was eating my daylilies. So I had daylilies this year for the first time in 33 years. So good for them. If there are no questions, is there a motion to approve resolution number 26-134?
On behalf of the mayor's daylilies. So moved.
Second.
Any further discussion? Frivolous or not? Cindy, vote please. Or, Cindy, vote please.
Councilmember Burkhart,
Yes.
Pope,
Yes.
Evans,
Yes.
Martin. Yes. Reddy.
Yes.
Motion passed. Item 7F, consider approval of claims in the amount of $1,551,134.57.
Move approval.
Second.
We have a motion and a second discussion. Cindy, vote please.
Councilmember Coe?
Yes.
Evans?
Yes.
Martin?
Yes.
Ready?
Yes.
Burkhart?
Yes.
Motion passed. Moving on to city administrator staff comments.
Just a quick reminder, we do have our summer concert series event here at the town center. It's the Trip. So please take some time and enjoy that concert. Otherwise, I'm going
Be
to
a
turn it
great
over.
turnout.
Yep. Otherwise, I'm going to turn it over to Matt, who's going to give an update and have a slight discussion on speed limits.
Good evening. Just to give a little bit of background. In 2017, Johnston completed a review of the speed limits in the Northwest area. And we, upon reviewing that, revealed there were several different speed limits on 100th, 107th, 78th, and even 70th Avenue east of 86th Street. It resulted in council action at that time to establish a 40-mile-an-hour speed limit along 100th, 107th, and then a 35-mile-an-hour on 78th Avenue, and a separate action lowered it on 70th east of 86th to 35 miles an hour. City staff was contacted to lower the speed limit on 100th and 107th Street last year. Staff brought that forward to the council for discussion at a work session last December. At that time, City Council had requested that we seek input from the residents that lived on the corridor. Communications in earlier this year did push out notification with a question that's shown here on the screen about lowering the speed limit from 40 to 35 to approximately 326 residents that live in 3 neighborhoods. This even included some of the Grimes folks that are on the west side of 100th and 7th Street, as well as the Crosshaven neighborhood and others along the 100th Street corridor, really kind of this Rushbrook neighborhoods as long as 107th, and then there were some that were there in Grimes that are shown on the map. Again, we didn't receive any comments on lowering the speed limit from 40 to 35. So I think that talks or shows that either A, they weren't paying attention to what we pushed out, or they didn't really care that we were going to lower it from 40 to 35. I haven't received any comments at this point on lowering that. Again, recently, we just received earlier this month another request to lower the speed limit on 100th Street. And last month, we received a request to add pedestrian crossings on 107th from Johnston neighborhoods to the Grimes Trail that sits on the west side of 107th as well. So with both of those requests, we really kind of took another look at added benefits to reducing the speed limits on the roadway. It really includes consistent speed limits in that northwest area of 35 miles an hour for driver expectancy through that area versus a 35, 40, and a 35 again back to 40. As development continues in the area, we keep adding rooftops on not only the Grimes side, but as well as the Johnston side as Crosshaven continues to develop out, which just generates additional trips and vehicle traffic. 78th Avenue has now been disconnected from 141. So currently that adds additional traffic. Beaverbrook will eventually be connected to 78th. So depending on which way Grimes residents decide to exit that area, could be out to the stoplight, could be down 107th. We'll have to wait and see what those traffic patterns look like, but there could be potential for added traffic down 107th where we want to add additional pedestrian crossings. So all of that being said, there is real benefit in lowering that speed limit from 40 to 35. Currently, staff is reviewing crossings on 107th. Looks like we've got crossings at 72nd and 107th. We're looking at Sorry, it's actually at Beaverbrook and 78th. That's the furthest north. We're looking at adding them at 74th and 75th. There, we've got to get across the ditch, so we've engaged our engineer to see what size pipes we'd have to put in the ditch to get potentially just a sidewalk across those, so that Johnston residents could get to the Grimes Trail that connects all the way back to 70th to the rest of the Johnston Trail system. So staff would recommend at this time to lower the speed limit from 40 to 35 on both of those roadways and have a more consistent speed limit through the entire area north of 70th. Happy to answer any questions.
Questions, comments?
I think your argument about consistency is appropriate. I mean, I drove around after we got an email, kind of encouraging it. And if you go up 100th, like a good example to me is like 62nd Avenue between 86th Street as you head to through past Vylor and over to the middle school. I mean, there's not much traffic coming in there, but that's a 35-mile-an-hour speed. In other places throughout town, like if you go up Beaver in front of Hyperion, it's 35. And the one thing that's about 100th is there's a lot of mailboxes on 100th. People go to get their mail right there on the street. So I do think that lowering it to 35 on 100th as well as 107th and making it the same as what it is on 78th makes sense. And so I think that's a good move. I do have one question about your pedestrian crossings on 107th. Are you talking about just striping it, or are you talking about actually adding like a push button light type crossing? What would be the extent of that? What does that mean from an infrastructure standpoint?
We would mark it with pedestrian crossings, much like we have on 62nd, not necessarily the pedestrian activated button to start with. We would mark it with
signage
and potentially painting those crosswalks. We would take kind of that incremental approach to that. And then we can't really, if we could do it right, we would want to put a sidewalk between the two developments and have one crossing. But if you've been out on that road, it drops off significantly on the edge of that roadway. So we can't really get one connection point. So you're going to need one at 75th and 74th. So you're going to have two intersections, or you're going to have two crossings that we would have advanced warning signage saying pedestrian crossing ahead, and then the actual pedestrian crossing sign at that, likely being painted as well, just to, since they are new, to help bring, and we could put some signage out there too, just to, like the message boards, just to let folks know for the first couple of weeks.
So is that something you're proposing to do then, Matt?
We're evaluating that, because really we're going to have to work with Grimes, because the connection is on the west side of the road. So we'd have to work with Grimes to be able to make those connections. It greatly benefits our residents to get them to that trail connection, because there is no sidewalk on the east side, but there is a trail on the west side. So there's been a few emails exchanged with Grimes as well as our staff. We're kind of basically kind of in the beginning stages of seeing what size pipes we need. We want to do it with in-house staff so that we don't have to contract it out. We've got the capability to do that, but we're going to have to work with Grimes to get those crossings put in.
So are you looking for us to say, we encourage you to find a solution here, go forth and do good things, or?
I think at this point, we'll bring it back for a future discussion, whether that's at a committee level, have some of those discussions, and then bring it back to either a work session, just to kind of what that looks like, what we're thinking. This today is really about lowering the speed limit on those, knowing that that's a potential in the future.
Any concerns about the proposal to lower the speed limit on those roads?
I'm good.
Like we're good.
Thank you.
Matt, actually, I do. And I'm trying to find comments. I didn't see, I saw the social media post that you had provided. I'm trying to sift back through here. You had summarized that there was nothing opposed to it, but I can't find any actual documented results as to feedback one way or the other that was given with regard to that poll. Do we have that documented somewhere that you can share with all of us? I'm saying that because the informal and far from scientific questioning, since this has come up, I haven't met a single person who's in favor of it. And so to some extent, While I definitely support trying to find consistency and enforcement, I also am trying to figure out what really is fully justifying this motivation.
Yeah, the email that I received from communications was they haven't received any, so we'll have to sift back through their data. And then we can bring that back. Kind of that next step would be to bring back an ordinance change, so they'll have 3 readings in order to do that. So we can share that information when we come back.
Thank you.
Thank you, Matt. Other city administrator staff comments? Okay. City council comments. Jim?
Nothing, thanks.
I would think.
Last Saturday, the Johnston hosted the 12U and 10U State Little League Softball State Championships. And that was appropriately won both by Johnston. So, and I want to, it's a great example of, so the softball, the tournament was hosted in Johnston. First time we've ever hosted it. And in order to host it, you really need a couple things. One, you need good facilities. And the facilities were the Lou Clarkson softball fields, the quad fields. And it's one that the city has invested heavily in over the last few years. We built the facility with the permanent bathrooms and the concession stand and a building to store all of their equipment. And then made significant upgrades to the fields, shade structures. And the shade structures are really, really nice, and they came in very handy at those games. And also irrigation for the fields, both the infield and the outfield, has allowed that so with the cities put a lot of money into it, but also local volunteers. We get a ton of volunteers, whether it's with the Johnston Girls Softball Association or the Little League, or I know the Soccer Association also has a lot of volunteers. And so I think it's a really good partnership where the city provides the facilities, certainly for the Little League, that's at an old city park for both baseball and softball. But the associations are really run by those volunteer boards, and those hours and the number of hours that those volunteers put in to get those fields ready for tournaments. And they host tournaments on a lot of weekends. There's tons of, if you drive down there, the parking lots are full, lots of activity, lots of economic activity for our community. So just, I think it's a real, the investment that we've made in Lou Clarkson on both the baseball and the softball side was really in demonstration, and I know appreciated by the Johnston Girls Softball Association board. And I know the mayor was there as well, and just kind of wanted to highlight that our investment in our facilities, I think, really is appreciated by our residents, but also others. 2, I'm going to circulate hopefully in the next week or so. The Central Iowa Water Works just approved their 5-year capital improvement project budget, and it has significant investments in the various nitrate removal systems. And so I'll share that out so people can get some of that information and understand kind of some of the different things. They've got an extensive capital improvement budget, but also the state just approved a $25 million appropriation to help fund those nitrate removals for Central Iowa Water Works. So I think that's going to be very helpful as well. So I'll get that out so that can be helpful for folks who are kind of interested in, okay, we've seen this, it's an issue, what's being done. It gives you a little bit of an idea of some of the things. It's not going to happen overnight. We're looking at probably 3 years before these types of improvements get built out, but I think it's a really good step. And I want to thank Matt for his leadership and hard work on the technical committee. Councilman Burkhardt serves as an alternate on that board as well, and often is called to participate. So we've been a very active member in that. And I think there's a lot of positive things happening with that, and certainly the investment that we're going to see in that is going to be helpful to all 600,000 customers of Central Iowa Water Works. So just wanted to give you that heads up that I'll be sending that around. So.
Councilman Burkhardt.
I have just a couple of things, Mayor, and I know several of these you already are familiar with, but I think they need to be stated publicly. My sincerest thanks to Sarah for drawing it to our attention, and certainly for your leadership, but also its leadership here at the dais, as well as leadership amongst all staff to do so well. The AA plus credit rating renewal that we have is outstanding. It is one of those things that I think can't be stressed enough, that it's those things that help save us money too. And as we have no idea, in some cases, our financial clarity with regard to legislation and things, what we're doing all that we can to make sure that when we do have to borrow, we're doing so with an appropriate amount of stewardship and fiduciary responsibility. So I really applaud all of you staff for what you do in that regard. Well done to keep that up. We also got an email just today that Deputy Fire Chief Burrows is retiring at the end of the month. He apparently has not, doesn't want a lot of lights and sirens and alarms from that standpoint as far as that goes. But I want to publicly state how grateful I am for his leadership and certainly for staying on board to make that transition to Chief Coleman's arrival, and now a little over a year, such a great start for our department. And he's done an outstanding job in that regard. I also need to convey that because his name, both first and last, start the same as mine, it is not and hasn't been uncommon that emails that are intended for him have come to my city email account. And by golly, I don't envy the emails that I received that were supposed to go to him. Largely, they're all great, but they're very highly technical in nature, asking for emergency type, feedback, and certainly the types of training that was that he had and the experiences that he had are outstanding. No one wanted me answering those emails, and so I hastily forwarded them along and to make sure, and also replied to folks to make sure that they knew they were not going to the right person at that point. The last thing, and this is something maybe I do have a little more skill on, but I want to be one of the first to put it on your calendar. October 9th, the Library Foundation is kicking off, or will hold a fundraiser, I should say, Read Between the Wines. So if that's of something you're inclined to do, in other words, you like reading or you like whining, either one, but mark your calendars, that is a Friday night, and Johnston High School football is playing away that night as well. So
What is the activity?
I assume it involves wine. I assume it involves books.
Is it happening at the library?
It is, at least that is the proposal, to have it at the library or on that Parks complex. So I know they've got more logistics to go, but the foundation is looking for ways to continue to provide resources and support for our wonderful library. So flag your calendar now and more details will come. And if I get them before you do, I'll share them, most definitely. With that, I yield.
I don't have anything.
Well, I'm going to pass this evening too, because we still have work to do, and it's getting late. So that we have a closed session per Iowa Code section 21.51C or 1I to evaluate the professional competency of an individual whose appointment, hiring, performance, or discharge is being considered when necessary to prevent needless and irreparable injury to that individual's reputation, and that individual requests a closed session. Do we have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Discussion. Cindy, vote please.
Councilmember Evans?
Yes.
Martin?
Yes.
Ready?
Yes.
Burkhart?
Yes.
Coe?
Yes.
Motion passed. We are back in open session. We're on tape, right?
Yep.
Okay. We are back in open session, and we have resolution number 26-135 in front of us. Did everybody hear what the annual salary amount was? 223,264.03.
I
Is
move approval of resolution 26-135.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Discussion? Mike, vote please.
Martin,
Yes.
Burkhart,
Yes.
Cope,
Yes.
Ready,
Yes.
Evans.
Yes.
Motion passed. Do you want me to put it in here, or you want to take it with you?
I'll print a copy for you to sign, and
Oh, well, I did it that way.
You just, that works. Okay, perfect. You can put it in there.
Is there anything else come before the council this evening?
Still,
I
Well, we
can
could
talk about
probably-
my trip.
Go into tomorrow morning.
okay, I have a 7 o'clock meeting, so.
If not, we are adjourned. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you. Thank you.
At least
Thank
we
you
don't
all.
have to go out in the rain.
Yeah,
Well, yeah,
Pretty much.
past the rain.
What's that?
The rain outside, we're not going to go outside in rain now, so.
I think we made it long enough.
And we didn't get the golf ball size hail, from what I know.
Did somebody do? Did somebody?
Like East Metro had some pretty bad hail.
So, we're doing the screening portion.
When I started seeing some of
Yeah,
those,
and
because
Matt
I was
Ross,
watching
company's
radar
gonna build it.
and some of
Yeah.
the alerts, and I'm like,
And so we
just had one car totaled this year for hail. I don't need two.
I was sitting here watching the clouds go that way,
Good night.
Good to see you.
which is the wrong way. Good night, Suresh. And then I saw dark hanging clouds over there, so I thought it was gonna be worse.